One interesting thing about the texts is that none of them repeat across the various libraries. There are many similarities, but no exact identities, which suggests continuity. These texts were never gathered into a single library. In a single copy that was made, studies organized them into possible sequences. Although each library is not very large, the number of texts, mostly short, is significantly high, and has been preserved with techniques appropriate to each historical period. There is a small text, superimposed onto another, which looks more like a title, on a very well-preserved manuscript, entirely written in Sanskrit. This manuscript still draws great attention, and practically led us to attempt to sequence the other texts, in order to understand it. This small text, in a loose translation, says the following. Behold the door, that shows a heterodox path. Walking is only for the one who crosses it. This is a path of understanding. The safety of the being's faith in itself is what makes it easier, simpler, and shorter. After this brief introduction, the following text appears. All my movements have always involved the text, and the text has always indicated that only absence wounds the universe with death, and only absence can demonstrate this. Over time, equations have sought to demonstrate the need to find the presence behind life. While the text supports this search, it also sustains itself. The survival of the text depends on eternalization. The paradox lies in the intrinsic revelation that kills the text by extinguishing the universe. Eternalization can only exist as long as ignorance also persists. The text can only exist outside the enlightenment that it itself contains. The text carries its own death sentence, and enlightenment is that sentence. Only absence clarifies. The presence that the text teaches one to seek is, in truth, absence. Absence dissolves life, and, consequently, the universe, returning the being to itself. The being who justifies its world only does so because it fills it with emotions. In attempting to understand the universe, it seeks representations that resemble the world it has itself justified. Life is reduced to this justified world, and, therefore, any civilization will only be understood and accepted by the being if it presents some resemblance to the world it has built for itself. What the being seems reluctant to understand is the treasure that indivisibility holds within individuation. Only the being constructs the universe, which exists solely by the presence of the one who creates it. Only the being constructs the text that explains life, and, within it, includes the key that frees it from the text itself, from eternity, from life, from the universe, that is, from its own constructions. The text that announces presence does not conceal absence as beginning and end. All work of coagulation is, essentially, work of dissolution. All understanding will always be subject to conditioning. Conditioning guides conclusions and understandings. What the being understands is only assimilated because there are stories that precede it and synthesize the matter that gives shape to creation. Antecedence carries limits, compatible with the limits of the being's perception. These limits determine the extent of understanding and, consequently, the dimension of each space and each era. The being believes it understands the world. Emotion is the key that supports a logic that makes it obvious. Without emotion, nothing justifies its presence, its history, or its life. Living, in essence, seems to be to feel emotion. This sentence seeks to synthesize life, revealing the purpose of tears and smiles. The dilemma is drawn as a line that seems to separate absence from presence. What to do when the entire construction lies in presence? To deny it is to deny the emotion that sustains it, and nothing is more painful than that. What the being taught itself, in order to construct its own image, must be understood through the same words that shaped the manual that accompanies it. It seems neither difficult nor easy. After all, when looking at itself, is the being truly seeing itself, or only seeing the image it created? To understand itself, would it not be using the very tools it conceived to sustain its image in creation? Here lies the key that leads it to absence. To absent oneself from oneself brings the being back to itself. The confrontation reveals how unnecessary it is for the understanding of what is already present. What is unnecessary, the being, or the confrontation? If the being is unnecessary for this understanding, then the confrontation reveals how unnecessary the being is for the understanding of what is already within it. If, on the other hand, the confrontation is unnecessary, then the confrontation reveals how unnecessary it is, by itself, for the understanding of what is already in the being. Strangely, the word both appears, written in Latin, beside the question.